Hi, everybody. This is Cynthia Kane again, and welcome back to UL100ZB, Research Skills, Information, and Technology, with the Manage part of our module for this week. Manage is in Chapter 6. Again, we really encourage you to read Chapter 6 of our textbook, and I'm going to switch back there in just a second, because Chapter 6 is going to fill in a lot of the details on what managing information is all about. So what we're going to be doing in this one is thinking about how we organize information professionally and also ethically, as in citing our sources and giving proper credit to those who have actually already come up with the ideas that we're putting in research papers or research projects. So we're going to be concentrating particularly on creating appropriately formatted citations and bibliographies, and the responsibility to be honest and ethical in all aspects of information. I'm also going to teach you how to use some different software programs to manage information and data a little bit more effectively, and I hope that they will be useful for you. So we're going to go ahead and go back to our module for week 3. I wanted to show you a few things that I really want you to be aware of while you're here. So what we've done here, and we're going to be going over this in just a second, I actually have a video tutorial here that you do not have to watch, but I would encourage you to do that. It's something I'm going to show you in just a second, having to do with Zotero for reference management software. And this is also where we have, when we click on our Learning Assessment 3 for evaluation of sources. The citation help that I referred to earlier from Excelsior College for APA and MLA, as well as some from Purdue OWL for APA and MLA, we have the links here as well, and we'll be looking at that in just a second. And we'll go back here. So issues that we're going to be considering for this pillar are plagiarism, copyright, and bibliographic management software. Plagiarism is covered on page 82 of this chapter in our textbook. And you probably know already that your professors are pretty adamant about citing anything that you take from a different source of information. If you take a direct quote, you need to give that author proper credit. If you paraphrase, which means that you're taking the ideas from another author and you're putting them sort of into your own words, but the ideas are still not yours, that's called paraphrasing. You still have to go ahead and give credit to that author. And that's why they are so adamant about that, because if you don't, you're plagiarizing, because you're using words, thoughts, or ideas that belong to someone else without giving them credit. Now, plagiarism sometimes can be unintentional. I know sometimes when I read a lot of sources and I'm writing something, I have to stop and think, is that my own idea or did I get that from somebody else? And that's why some things such as bibliographic management software can really come in handy for keeping your thoughts and keeping your information organized. Again, I'm going to show you a little bit about that in this tutorial as well. Copyright is something we're going to get into later on, but it does relate to what we're doing right now on managing information. You maybe didn't realize this, but anything that you've created, if you've written a research paper, you have a copyright to that. So if I were reading a research paper, or if I were looking at a website or an infographic that you created, I can't use that without your permission, and you may never have thought about that in that context. So anything that's created has a copyright, and the copyright means that we do have to give credit for that person's ideas. That's really a basic interpretation of what copyright is all about. So again, these are just some things I want you to think about. So something that can come up when it comes to managing information is something called fair use. And especially right now, you may have a lot of professors who have put a lot of readings online for you to look at in Canvas. Most of the time, that's going to be okay. That actually falls into something called educational fair use as far as the United States is concerned. That just simply means that your professors are not turning around and asking you to purchase those articles again, They're putting them up on Canvas so that they're easy for you to get to and easy for you to read for that specific semester. And as you know, after that semester is over, you would no longer have access to that Canvas course because it's over. That semester is over. So that again falls into the context of fair use. So again, you may have a lot of readings that your professors have put up on Canvas for you to take a look at, and that generally is going to be okay under these circumstances. Now, if you have to write an annotated bibliography, is it okay to copy and paste the abstract of an article as it comes out of a library database? Well, we know the answer to that. No, you're not going to copy and paste that. You would read the article or read the book, and if you had to do a summary or an abstract of that item, you need to do it in your own words. Now, this third bullet point can be a little bit more ambiguous. Is it okay to copy and paste an image online and put it into a PowerPoint presentation? That all depends. When you get ready to create some final projects like websites and infographics, we're going to show you some places that are available online that are called Creative Commons. And those usually are sites where you can borrow images and they're actually copyright free. So you do not have to worry about using them without anybody's permission. And I always seek out anything like that for an image that I'm looking for online that's copyright free. Now, having said that, a lot of people just copy and paste images, put them into a PowerPoint presentation or an infographic and have at it. But I do think it's much better to seek out sources that are copyright free, that are indeed free of any copyright restrictions. And that basically all falls under fair use. Basically, with fair use, nobody's making a profit, and you also are not stealing profits from an author. This is why you don't want to download something illegally, like music or an electronic book that isn't available, like on the library website or something like that. If you do that, you're kind of stealing from the author. You're stealing that person's profits, and you're also stealing their ideas and their creative activity. And that's where plagiarism does come into play. I'm going to switch over here too, because there's something I would like for you to take a look at on your own. So I'm going to go back over here to our Canvas course. And I have two links here for two YouTube videos. One will probably sound familiar to you, or maybe your parents actually listen to this. It's a song called Every Breath You Take by the Police. This came out in the 1980s. And then I'd like for you to listen to another song that came out in the 1990s called I'll Be Missing You by Puff Daddy and Faith Evans. These are going to sound incredibly similar, and this is not too unusual with music. You probably have heard a lot of songs over the years, and you might think, my gosh, that tune sounds so familiar. Tunes are borrowed all the time. Songs are borrowed all the time. But is it actually appropriate to do this with or without permission? And this is where this can get a little bit fuzzy when it comes to plagiarism. As it turned out, when it came to the song I'll Be Missing You, Sean Combs did not ask permission beforehand to use the melody or the lyrics from Every Breath You Take, but it's very, very familiar. You can really see that. And this is a link that I have that actually will, I'm going to go ahead and click on this. This article talks about what happened as a result of not actually asking permission to use a song. And what happened was that Sting was one of the writers of Every Breath You Take. And again, it was one of the biggest hits of 1983. And the songwriting is credited 100% to Sting. So in 1997, this is when I'll Be Missing You came out. And it went on to win a Grammy. It sold more than 7 million copies worldwide. However, no one from his record label thought to secure Sting's permission to sample the song for that 1997 remix. And if they had asked permission, he probably would have had to hand over about 25% of the royalties of I'll Be Missing You to Sting. But because permission was not asked beforehand, Sting was able to demand and receive 100% of the remix's publishing royalties. This is where plagiarism and not asking permission can get very, very expensive. So this is another reason why it's good to be able to manage your information so that none of you would actually wind up in a situation like that. You probably wouldn't, but it's better to manage your information and know where it's coming from than to seek permission or ask forgiveness after the fact. So one way to help avoid plagiarizing is to use bibliographic management software programs. So a lot of these programs will let you save references and PDFs of articles, and some will let you take notes about your items for future research, and also a lot will let you download your references and convert them into a citation style such as APA or MLA. And this is what I want to show you next. I'm going to go back over here to our class. Because I mentioned that on our class, I have a video that you can watch on your own. This is actually from a workshop that I taught for a management program that's called Zotero. Zotero is very, very easy to use. If you go to www.zotero.org, you can download Zotero for free on your computer. You would download it here, and then you also need to install a connector that will make it talk to Google Chrome if that's what you're using. It will also work with other browsers such as Firefox and Safari, but Google Chrome seems to be the most popular one. And the great thing about Zotero is that once it's installed onto your computer, this is what you're going to see. So this is Zotero as it's installed on my computer. As you can see, I have several folders or several collections here according to different projects that I might be working on. So if I were working on a project on eating disorders, for example, this is what I could wind up doing. I'm going to minimize my screen here. And I'm going to start another share and go back to our library's webpage. And let's say I want to do some research on eating disorders and art therapy. So I could go to databases, and I could go to a database called PsycInfo, which deals with psychological information. And when I click on Advanced Search, I could search again by abstract. This will seem familiar from some of our other video tutorials. And I could search for art therapy and eating disorders. And you see that I can look for synonyms as well, which is what we want you to do. And I have 94 results. I'm going to limit this to academic journals. And at this point, this article looks rather interesting. Is poetry therapy an appropriate intervention? Well, now that I have Zotero installed and I have it open on my computer, there's a little icon up here that looks like a page. If I click on Save to Zotero, this is saving that to my folder or my collection that I have created on Zotero. And it's also saving the full text of the article along with it. So let's switch back over here to Zotero. And now we see, when I click on this, there's the article that I downloaded from Zotero, and then there's the full text. So this is a great way of organizing and saving your references. And if I were to hold down my Control key and then right-click I can create a bibliography from any of these items in whatever format I would want. I could create this as an RTF file and then open that on my Microsoft Word, and then my bibliography will be there already. That's a very quick overview of Zotero. Again, I do encourage you that if you're interested more in learning about Zotero, to go back to our modules right here. And I would really encourage you in this case to go ahead and watch this video tutorial for Zotero, and it goes into it in a lot more detail. Something else I'm going to show you really quickly too is something called an EBSCOhost account. Now, EBSCOhost is actually a vendor or a publisher. We're in PsycInfo, which is a database, so that's not the same as EBSCOhost. But what I could do up here is click on Sign In, and if I sign in with my Google, I could sign in with my g.emporia.edu account, so you could do that with your g.emporia.edu account. This will actually let me add this article or go back to my result list. And if I click on any of these, as you can see, I have different subfolders that I have organized here, where I could just put these in a regular folder. Again, this is a way of managing your information with Manage. And when I go back up here to my folder, those articles that I have saved, you can see I have a lot more saved as well. These are all in my EBSCOhost account, and now they will be saved until I decide to do something with them, if I decide to delete them or keep them or do something else. If I decided that I wanted to email, I can email these to myself, put in my email address, and the citation again. I could email these as a bibliography or a references list in APA or MLA. So this is another way of managing your information. There's a lot of different ways that you can do this. It really just depends on what's comfortable for you. So I showed you the EBSCOhost databases. There are other databases such as ProQuest databases that will let you do that. And Google Scholar will actually let you sign in with your g.emporia.edu account, and you can save references and citations in Google Scholar as well. We're not really requiring you to do this, but again, we want you to be aware that there's a lot of different ways that you can manage information effectively so that you're not losing your citations, you're not losing your references, and it helps you so much in terms of avoiding plagiarism. And I've gone over Zotero. There's information again about how to get to it. Academic Writer is another one I do want to show you. We're going to go back over here. And if I go back to my University Libraries and Archives tab, and click on Databases, Academic Writer is another management program that you can use. Now this is just for APA style, but if you click up here on Welcome and log in, you can create an account, and this could be a wonderful way of checking things such as your APA references in the Learn Center. The Reference Center will let you save references, and the Write Center will actually let you write a paper directly in APA style. It's formatted, and then you can export it as a PDF or a Microsoft Word document. Again, if you're interested in learning more about Academic Writer, let me know. I'd be more than happy to help you with that. So now you're ready to view our third video tutorial, in which we're going to be covering quiz number 1 that you can do as an engagement activity, a discussion, which is also an engagement activity, and finally learning assessment 3, our evaluation of sources.